Am I the asshole here for telling an exchange student to not date my son and possibly ending my marriage? So I, 40 female, have 2 kids. My daughter Liz, who is 12, and my son Toby, who is 19. I'm gonna be honest, Toby's become a perverted degenerate. Because Toby is his son, my husband, 54, tended to spoil Toby a lot and indulge his interest, which included 18-plus movies and my husband's stash of old Playboys. My husband would say, well, he's a teenager, let him be, despite me telling him that Toby was growing to be a degenerate. This was especially true for Asian women. We had an Asian cleaner, we're pretty well off, who Toby would hit on and harass until she smacked him across the face when he tried to lift her skirt. My husband wanted to press charges, but I threatened to divorce him if he did, and I would make sure everybody knew what a pervert Toby was. I made sure to give her a nice bonus before referring her to a friend, and then hired an older man in her place. Toby sulked for 3 months following that. I can already hear the comments, why threaten divorce when you could just do it? And it's because I don't want to uproot Liz. I've been saving a small chunk of the weekly grocery money since she was born and have a lot saved in a secret account. I originally planned to get the best divorce lawyer once Liz goes to college and leave him, but considering everything that happened these past few hours, I may need to move my plans up. I realized I was basically groomed not long after Toby began exhibiting that problematic behavior, and I think fetishizing exotic women is hereditary, as my husband is white and I am Latina. Most of the community knows that I was groomed, so I have a lot of friends in the neighborhood because of it. They serve as my eyes, and it keeps Toby in check while in public. Something that he makes clear annoys him. Anyway, our neighbor recently had his prior exchange student come back for a visit. He hosted a few years back. For the sake of the post, I will call her Kimmy. Kimmy is incredibly bright and happy. She's always smiling and waving at people in the street. This would be all fine and dandy if she hadn't done so to Toby, who she caught coming back from hanging out with friends. She was on my neighbor's front porch, having tea with my neighbor's wife, when they caught each other's eyes. To be honest, Toby was smitten, but I didn't trust it. I noticed he and Kimmy would talk for hours on the porch the following week, and we even had her over for tea a few times over the course of that week. Liz absolutely adores her, and the two would talk about fashion and the newest anime and manhwas. I have no idea if I spelt that right, but the Korean version of manga. Fast forward to 2 days ago, and we're having tea with Kimmy, my neighbor's wife, and I. Kimmy asked if she could possibly date Toby, and both the neighbor's wife and I froze up. I put down my cup, and I was blunt. I told her Toby was a lot like his father in the fact that he doesn't see women as a gentleman should. I brought up the Asian maid and told her Toby may look at her the same way, even if he doesn't seem to right now. I then explained my husband was the same way, love-bombing and cherishing me, and I realized too late the kind of man he was. My neighbor's wife cut in, says that she knows that I had tried to set Toby straight, but some nature is too strong to change. I then finished saying that if she did decide to date Toby, I would be honored. I also informed her that I'd have her back if Toby ever tried to pull anything shady, and so would most of the neighborhood. Kimmy silently nodded, seemingly understanding. Now, Kimmy is ignoring Toby. She came over this morning to pick up Liz for a shopping day, and Toby tried to say hi, but she just ignored him and told me goodbye before Liz shut the door. Toby mumbled a slur while pouting, and I had enough. I rolled my eyes and said something along the lines of, "And that's why I warned her about you." I honestly didn't mean to slip up, but I was exhausted from not sleeping. I have chronic migraines. Toby looked at me, and it looked like heartbreak. But I looked at him straight in the eyes and told him, "I tried to make you a gentleman, but you and your father kept acting like perverted asses. If you want to blame anybody, blame your father. He allowed you to become this way." Toby stormed to his room, and I got a text from my husband an hour later asking why I would sabotage my own son like that. I texted back basically the same thing, that I had enough of Toby looking at women like objects, and that if he had been a good father, I wouldn't view my son as a pervert. We had a chance to fix his behavior, but he enabled him. My husband is now furious with me, and Toby has yet to leave his room. Liz and Kimmy is still out, and I texted my neighbor's wife to ask if the two can sleep over at her place, since I have a feeling my husband is already going to start a fight with me. The neighbor offered to come over and act as a mediator and shield, as he's a big guy, and I took him up on that offer. I'm shaking, I'm scared, and I probably imploded my marriage, all because I warned a very kind girl about the kind of boy that my son is. I feel like I'm about to throw up. I have no idea what my husband is going to do or say. All I know is that he is mad. Toby is mad, but Liz and Kimmy are safe. My neighbor said that he's going to be over before my husband gets home, and I honestly am left wondering if what I did is actually for the best. Am I the asshole here for warning an exchange student about my son and ruining my marriage? In the comments, Hench Wench says, "Not the asshole. The fact that Toby reacted to rejection with a slur is all you need to know about how things would have gone with her. I think my jaw literally hit the floor when he responded to her guardedness with a slur. For a fraction of a second, I nearly felt bad for this kid, but all sympathy got sucked dry with that one. I do think you need to rethink your current living situation regarding you and your daughter, though. You are well aware that you live amongst perverts, and I'm sorry, but your daughter is 12. As sick as this sounds, she's not safe around your son now, and she's not going to be safe around him, period, at 16, 17, 18. Y'all gotta go. You're not the asshole, but you will be if you continue to let your daughter live in this type of environment. My gosh, I didn't even think about the daughter. The ones who are saying leave are correct, and you did the right thing in warning Kimmy about your degenerate stepson. Not the asshole. OK Passage says, before your husband gets home, start to get your shit out of the house, especially like important documents and stuff. Get a safety deposit box at a bank and put all the stuff in there if you can. Couldn't agree more. Those get away from the sick husband and son plans for Liz and herself have to be stepped up big time now. For Liz's sake, even more than her own at this point. Not the asshole, and holy shit, get the cavalry. The entire neighborhood is gonna want a piece of him if he hurts you. I'm sorry this is happening to you, OP. Does Liz know that her brother's a pervert? OP says, you're sweet, thank you. Liz does know, and she never has friends over because she's scared that Toby will try something. Evil Mouse replies, I don't think you know what this means. Your daughter is 12. Her friends are around that age. If she feels like she needs to protect her 12-year-old friends from her brother, that means there's a whole lot more going on that you're not yet aware of. When you get the chance to talk to Liz and let her explain what happened for her to want to protect her friends, get ready to get the police involved. Look, I really hope not, but that does sound incredibly grim, and it's not out of the realm of possibility. But to the question of the post, am I the asshole here for telling an exchange student to not date my son and possibly ending my marriage? No, I don't think so. It does seem like this was an untenable situation, and that given everything that's happened to you, you probably should have left him quite a while ago. But I'm not one to say, oh, you should have done this. You suck for not doing so. You've put your daughter in danger. You've put yourself in danger. How dare you? That's bad parenting. Like, no, I'm not saying that. I understand that there seems to be quite a bit of financial coercion going on here. The fact that you have to save what is left of the grocery money in order to plan ahead for a divorce lawyer in the future. That kind of tells me a lot about what's going on in this situation. This is just abuse. It just sounds like so much abuse is going on. You're prepared to step up those plans? Do it as soon as possible and get out of there. This doesn't sound safe for either of you. And now, on to the update. Hello everybody. I just wanted to clarify a few things before I update you all. Toby is my son. I think a lot of people were under the impression that he was just my husband's. I guess I worded that strangely. Second, everything I've done to try to prevent any form of escalation of Toby's behavior was dismissed by my husband. Any punishments were immediately reversed when he got home. Thirdly, I got Toby tested for any form of mental disability after his first expulsion. He's been expelled twice, and he is neurotypical as far as the tests go. I got him tested for ADHD, ASD, OCD, and BPD. Fourth, my husband has never been violent towards my children and I. If he's upset, he'll direct that energy to something else or activity. Fifth, it feels like a lot of people thought that I was stealing from my family by skimming money from the grocery budget, but it was just spare change and notes from after shopping trips. It's not like I was stealing the entire grocery budget. And yes, I can hear and understand the "why haven't you left?" or "why didn't you do this?" It's taken a lot of talking between my family, friends, and now you people of Reddit for me to realize that Liz and I didn't deserve this, especially Liz. So, now for the update. I am filing for divorce. I packed Liz up and took her back to my home country for girls' time with her cousins. While there, I made and had a virtual appointment with 2 different lawyers from the same firm. They're currently drafting the paperwork, but they also recommended that I talk to local law enforcement about a possible protective order against Toby and my husband. Given their behavioral tendencies, I may consider it. And before everyone comes after me for abandoning Toby, this hurts me too. But at this point, I have to protect Liz. And if I plan to have full custody of her, which the lawyers said was highly guaranteed if Toby continues to live with my husband, that I need to separate myself from them. I'm still in my home country, talking to my family about everything. Just as I confirmed before, Toby's not gone after any of his cousins. I asked, since I needed any additional accounts for legal reasons. Right now, I'm okay, but honestly, I don't know if I'll update again. I just really want to put this entire situation at rest, so I may see you guys again, or I may not. But thank you all for the support, advice, and courage. In the comments, Bone Mathia says, "Please be careful. Your husband may have international law on his side if you file for divorce while out of the country, especially if you and Liz are not citizens of whatever country you are currently visiting. You need to make sure that the legal firm that you're working with is very familiar with international divorce and custody laws while you pursue this outside of the country that you and Liz have been living in." Also, as a follow-up to your last post, degeneracy is not hereditary. Fetishizing exotic women is not hereditary. These behaviors are not coded in DNA, they are taught, and your son was taught to behave this way by his father, which also means you're going to need to think about your role in your son's life. I would suggest you prioritize therapy for you and your daughter separately ASAP. DDJZ says, "Not the asshole here. Ignore the incels. I'm glad you're protecting yourself and your daughter." Traveler replies, "I mean, husband was 34 and she was 21 when they had Toby. So not a huge surprise he's a predator, just like his dad, and dad doesn't hold him accountable. I'm glad Opie realized, finally, and is protecting her daughter." Oh yeah, I kinda glossed over that age gap. Wow, that is a bit problematic, don't you think? I don't think a relationship between, at minimum, they met each other and hooked up and conceived straight away. A 33-year-old and a 20-year-old is a great basis for a relationship. For some reason, I've seen people in the comments being like, you guys will get mad about the darndest of things, that relationship gap isn't really all that bad. Why do you have to overhype these things? Back in my day, it was chill. We all had a chill time with it and no one complained. You guys are weak. Like, I'm sorry, but look at the empirical evidence in front of your eyes right now. Look at the incredibly abusive relationship between these two. You'd think that if we had more public awareness about the dangers of such big age gaps and their tendency to lead very abusive relationships for the younger woman involved, that, if that information was more publicly available, you'd have less young women like this having children and getting married to much older men like that because of the high risk involved. I don't know. That's just my 2 cents. Obviously, this story isn't completely finished yet, but it's very new. All I can say is I hope that OP gets all of the help that she needs. I hope the divorce goes swiftly, and that she can separate herself from Toby. And from that husband, obviously. As said before, those two are not safe individuals to be around. You are in danger when you're with them. And as sad as it is that it is her own son that got to this point, OP is under no obligation to keep that son in her life if he is such a threat. She is very wise to stay away from him, so thank you for doing the right thing for yourself and for your daughter, OP. Still not the asshole. Our next post is by user One Sunch One Day, titled, Am I the asshole for wanting better etiquette from my husband? My husband and I have been together for 20 or so years. He's a genuinely good man. Great husband, loving parent, loyal friend. I feel fortunate that we are still in love after all this time. We have kind of a bestie vibe going. We really like to do things together, whether it's errands, shopping, cooking, impromptu adventures. Sometimes our teen is along with us, but sometimes not, as he has a growing social life. We had a dinner out tonight, and when our enjoyable meal was over and we had paid the check, he got up from the table and walked out, leaving me and our leftovers at the table. I'm always slightly slower to get up. He does this a lot, and it really bothers me. Am I wrong to want him to stand at the table and wait 2 seconds so we can walk out together? Also, when we're out together, or as a family, he will often walk ahead of me instead of next to me. For example, when we get out of the car in the church parking lot on Sunday mornings and walk to the church, I'm often left trailing behind. I have long legs, and I'm not a slow walker. I'm not ugly or weird or embarrassing, and he's not some degenerate who doesn't know better. So what's this about? When I've brought it up casually in the past, he brushes it off or deflects, but now I feel like we need to have an actual conversation about it. Am I the asshole here? And how do I go about broaching this without having to deal with an overly defensive reaction? In the comments, Waterwitch says, So, I had a husband who liked what I thought of as manners too. If I brought it up, he declared that those things were unimportant. It wasn't until I reframed it as, these are things that make me feel loved and considered, that I got through to him and started making changes. So maybe reframe the discussion? OP replies, Yeah, this exactly. He does a lot of other thoughtful things. I'm starting to see it as a kind of love languages situation. Or just plain respect. All of us here says, not the asshole. Pro tip, hold hands more when walking. Even if you have to catch up, start holding hands. You may surprise him at first, it may be awkward, but you may get the results you want without saying anything. Plus, it builds intimacy. Why not just say something? Well, she says she has. Sometimes to get results, we need to try a different approach. Fair Quantity says, not the asshole. Thankfully, if your relationship is so solid, you should be able to bring this up to your husband without offending him. Just explain how it makes you feel when he leaves without you or walks far ahead of you. He most likely isn't doing this on purpose and is either a fast walker or someone who zeroes in on the destination and loses focus of his surroundings because of it. I know people like this who don't mean to abandon people, but just do it without thinking. OP replies, he is totally about the destination. Thank you for this perspective. Farthada replies, I get tunnel vision like that too, and I have to keep checking to see if my wife is with me or I need to pause. Yeah, seems like a fairly innocuous kind of situation, but I guess it does bear questioning whether you are an asshole for bringing it up in a more sterner or more direct context, in which this case I don't think OP would be. And it's not like the casual conversation where she got dismissed was confrontational either. It doesn't give me the vibes that he recognized he was doing something wrong and didn't have anything to say and was like, you know what, I'm going to keep doing it and I'm not going to give you a reason for it. You just need to put up with it. I don't get those vibes. It was more like, he's like, I don't know. I just do those things, I guess. I didn't really think too much about it. And she didn't give off the vibe that this was more of a love language thing for her and that it had been annoying her. So no, not the asshole for bringing it up. And I think you should take the advice of the comments. Either be direct about it and tell him that it's a love language of yours and that you would love to have that need be met, or do the more indirect approach and just keep holding his hand until you kind of teach him how you want to interact with him when you're going to a destination. I like both of those approaches, and I don't think anything bad is going to come from it. And now, on to the update. I really appreciated all the comments, ideas, and feedback. When I brought this topic up the next day, it didn't feel particularly well received, and I was frustrated with myself for not being more articulate and with him not being more open to conversation. I chalked it up as needing to be revisited in the near future. But we went away overnight with our son 2 days later, and I stopped counting examples of changed behavior at 7 or 8. From checking into the hotel to walking around town, dining out twice, walking to the beach and back multiple times, we walked together, he held doors, and even said to my son at one point, "Hang on, we're gonna wait for Mum." And my dear teen, without any prompting at all, scooped up leftovers of something that he and I shared at lunch before we left that restaurant. I did thank my husband repeatedly when he waited a beat for me, some verbally, some with just a smile. If this lasts, I'll be thrilled, and he does not seem to mind one bit. In the comments, Unlikely Foxing says, "Man, I would love to be like this couple. Either one of them, to be honest. Able to recognize a problem, but neither blow it out of proportion nor ignore it, and able to accept criticism and immediately learn from it and implement changes and grow as a person, without it being a massive uphill mental battle against ingrained habit on my part." And R. Baltimore says, "I have a relationship like this and a husband who listens and is considerate. We've been married 18 years and together 26. We are not elderly, we just started dating young. My in-laws are like this too. They are absolutely adorable if I'm being honest. Partners like this are absolutely out there. You just have to be willing to be the same way. The ability to accept constructive criticism will get you really far in life, and if your partner can do it too, you'll be very happy together." And that's where I'm going to end today's episode, guys. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.